You go and you get a job and you earn money and you buy things but what are we really supposed to be doing here? We're really supposed to be having conversations like this and helping each other and saying everybody's in recovery. What are we recovering from? We're recovering from believing that the fear was the truth.
We're thrilled to introduce our first guest on the Culture is an Inside Job podcast. She's a founder, speaker, and writer who embodies resilience, innovation, and transformation. Described as the CEO whisperer, she's an industry visionary who has reshaped advertising and personal development. Named one of Adweek magazine's Creative All-Stars, she has not only led multi-million-dollar companies, but also created iconic campaigns that have left an indelible mark on the industry. As the founder of Vista Caballo, she has channeled her profound life experiences from a globe-trotting childhood to overcoming a terminal illness into designing transformative leadership experiences. Please welcome Lisa Arie. Welcome back, everyone. Hi, Karen. Hi, Scott.
Hello.
We have an amazing special guest with us today, and her name is Lisa Arie. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you.
So Lisa and Karen met, and I don't even remember how long ago, but I'm going to turn it over to Karen so Karen can make the introduction as far as how the two of you met, and then we will just jump in and enjoy each other's conversation today. Karen?
Sounds good. Thank you, Wendy. It's so great to have you here, be this first guest of us. I guess I'm dating myself here that you're our first, but hey, it's just a really cool experience. So it's an interesting how we came about. I kind of AI came up with your information somehow or another when asking where there are places that value coaching. And so when I did that little, hey, are you interested in finding out more? Because I would love to learn more about you. And you were like, yeah. And so we got on the call, and then there was just this magic between us. And that just has totally continued to resonate with me. And then now we're looking at creating something really cool for you together, co-creating some kind of a certification for coaches. As well, you have shared your digital experience with me in such an amazingly profound way that just the word persistence here is still right here on my computer, and it just can't, it continues to resonate every single day for me. So I look forward to hearing more about what that might, to share with our audience. What is the whole persistence piece of what you have created? So without further ado, my first question for you is, who is Lisa Arie? And without holding back, whatever it is that you want us to know, what our listeners might need to know, I would love to hear, who are you?
What a lovely question. I'm a human being. I'm a person. I'm like you. I'm just, on our planet, doing my best to live my best life, doing my best to live life, and understand what that is, and it's been quite a journey.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it more and more the more I'm on the journey. As my perception of what life is has changed quite profoundly.
For sure.
And so, I can tell you some of the things I've done, but I'm not sure that's what you're asking,
Who do you be? Yeah, who do you
Yeah,
be?
I'd say that I just, I'm a human being, and I'm learning about the depths of love and learning how to enjoy that and become that and share that and express that.
What brought you to this place of being
Mm.
most profoundly? That's a loaded question. I know. Sorry.
Yes.
All the
Well,
things.
the image of getting rumbled pretty severely sprang to mind. Uh, life brought me to this moment, right? And with great love brought me to this moment. But it was a bit of a rumble. Um, I primarily because I didn't know how to surf. I didn't know how to body surf. I didn't, so I mean, it's an analogy, right? But um, first I had to learn how to swim and not drown, and then enjoy learning how to swim. And then, there are waves, and some of them are just huge, beautiful swells that you get to float in, and they'll carry you. And others are very powerful and will rumble you
Yeah.
and hopefully deposit you on the beach, maybe a little breathless and maybe without all of your bikini intact, but that's the hope,
Yeah.
right? So I would say that's how I got here. Is I grew up. I was a child, and I grew up, and I was educated um, through my family and what was important to them. And then as I continued to grow up, I continued to learn and learn what was important maybe to the wider world. And somewhere in there, maybe not early enough, I started to ask what was important to me. And I think that's what, the stirrings of the rumble started there.
Yeah.
What else was available as far as life that maybe was outside of what I had been I'd been educated with, outside of what I'd learned, maybe indoctrinated with. What was it really all about? And so I actually learned what brought me here to this particular moment at that particular juncture through a different species, not our human species. I learned through the equine species more about life and experience of life and what it looked like to them and to their tribe and their way of being, which then opened up my perspective to trees and their perspective of life, which opened me up to rivers and mountains, and that's where I find myself now, and then which gave me a completely different perspective to then consider and interact with my own species in a different way.
So I want to go back to your analogy of the wave, Lisa, because there's something really beautiful in that I can't, I'm continuing to visualize this. And so for our listeners that want to learn more about your story, you grew up on the East Coast, and that wave literally took you all the way to this beautiful little vista in Colorado. And
I
so that wave, there's so much in that wave and that story that took you from East Coast to Colorado, right? And again, we could sit and spend hours on that story because it's a fascinating story. But what's the one aspect of that that was the turning point for you, that you found yourself in this rumble on the wave, however many, 2,000, 3,000 miles from home? How many miles?
Yeah.
Lots.
It's more than that even, right?
Yeah. Um, well, the wave started, the waves, it took me actually all around the world. I was born in New York, I grew up overseas, and then it deposited me sort of back in New York, and then it was a tsunami. It wasn't a wave. I mean, it was a wave. It was a huge wave.
Yeah.
And so what, as I stood facing that wave, right, I was like, well, how are you going to, do you dive under that? Do you have enough lung capacity to make it to the other end of the bottom of the wave? Do how do you do it? How do you do it? That was my pivot point. How do you do it? And that's when I realized, I actually wasn't 100% conscious. I'm probably not even right now, right? I mean, I think there's more consciousness to be attained. But at that point, that's when I realized I had been sort of asleep, in my own dream, if you will. I had I was operating on in fear. We have a brilliant human design, and I didn't know about my whole operating system. It was all automatic what I was doing. And so because I was unaware of that, um, it's like my computer. I turn it on and it does certain things. And, so I would wake up in my day and I would do certain things, but I didn't realize that my main operating system was fear. And as I faced that tsunami and I realized I didn't know who I was, to your question, who am I? I didn't know who I was. I didn't know I was love. And that conquers over. It's the greatest surfboard in the world. You can surf any wave when you're on the surfboard of love. I don't know where the surfboard analogy is coming from, by the way. I'm not
That's
even
okay. It's all good. It just
so it was on my bucket list, but I the last time I was on a surfboard, I was 5. So but I'm just saying, right? I didn't know me, which made facing that tsunami even more terrifying, because what do you rely on?
Yeah.
And so that was my great awakening. And when I said, okay, well, I have to figure out who I am without all of that stuff, without all the education and the achievement and the indoctrination. I needed to get to the essence of me. And that's the shore that I was deposited on.
And so that place right there, the realization that you wanted to find yourself.
Yeah.
There's a part that I'm curious, Lisa, if you look back and think, what was the environment around you like? Where were there, like, what was the culture that allowed you to find the confidence to go toward that fear rather than whatever, the alternative might be? For many of us who see fear, we tend to want to run away, or we may tend to want to be aggressive toward it. Like, what was going on around you environmentally that allowed you to land where you did?
Well, the environment was just, what so many of us know, right? I mean, it was everybody going to work, and there was my work, and I owned a couple of businesses, and, I had achieved a lot, and I had money in my bank account, and I had beautiful clothes in my closet, and I lived in a beautiful apartment, and, life was just peachy, right? Like, that was the external environment. But I had just been given the diagnosis of a terminal disease. So for me, it was actually pretty easy to make that choice, because there was nothing to lose, right? My
Greatest fear,
401k,
right?
right? My 401k didn't matter anymore. Like, who cared? Like, what, And so that was the whole picture, was the status quo was there. Everything was there and nothing mattered. Everything I'd worked for and nothing mattered.
Mhm.
And so the environment that and it wasn't like I could go read a book about, well, what's the other side like and how do you do it? And, I mean, there's been some books of people that have had those experiences and shared, near death experiences or death experiences. But there wasn't a map, at least that I could find, of, well, how do you do it? So it forced me to face myself
Mm.
and say, it's not like I could go to my parents and say, hey, can, you help me walk this part of the path? I couldn't go to my sister. I couldn't, you know what I mean? It's like there's only one person in that moment, and it's you.
Yeah.
And
You'd checked off all the boxes and
yeah,
you realized that it still missed the path. Like you still
right.
wasn't the way forward, right?
It was not the way forward. Nothing I had in my brain or in my list of awards or was going to was there to equip me for this moment. Well, it was there. I just didn't know it was there.
Yeah.
My heart was there, my courage. So when you say, what was it? I guess it was willingness and courage, right? And nothing happens without willingness. Nothing.
Yeah.
And it takes courage, which comes from our heart. And when we start to listen to our hearts, that's where the truth is.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I could have listened to the facts, and I feel quite strongly I'd probably be dead now. Right? I could have taken the medicine. And my heart said, don't. Leave behind everything you know and go to the horses.
Mm-hmm.
Or, that was probably God. God, my heart had probably won, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's and I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about love,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that is what became my guide.
So let's talk a little bit more about this experience here that you offer at Vista Caballo,
Mm.
because you've got something really magical. And while I have yet to experience it, I have had a chance to experience the digital experience, the still point experience. But before we talk about that, Lisa, share more about how you knew what you now know. How did you come to know that they were there guiding you in a bigger way than we as humans could ever imagine? Can you share with us that moment?
It's when your heart says go and you're willing to go, we've got this amazing part of our intelligence system called instinct. So I just followed my instinct. There happened to be a horse in New York City. His name is Austin, um, who I climbed on his back, and something inside me clicked. That's how it started. My instinct was, well, in that moment, after I'd been told I was going to die, I heard a voice saying, go to the horses. And I'm like, great, great. Not only am I dying, but now I'm hearing voices. Excellent day. It's a really excellent day, right? But I didn't have anything to lose, as I said. So I'm like, okay, go to the horse. What does that mean? And then you start to follow your instinct. And so my instinct led me to this one horse. And then when I felt that click, I wanted to learn more. And so I went to a horse school, and I learned about horses. In natural horsemanship is what they called it. And um, so, for those of you that are interested, it was called Pirelli. That's where I first started to learn. And it was wonderful because I knew very little about horses. And and so there I was at this beautiful ranch in Colorado. Um, and I got to be in a herd of horses, and everything started to make sense. Everything. Because they are connected on a completely different level. They are connected on a very instinctual level. They are incredibly intelligent, um, but they don't let that get in the way of their connection and their instinct. It's part of it. And that's when I started to become aware of all of our intelligence systems and how when they operate together, it's a whole different experience of life, right? I mean, instead of just living life from here, or I should say from here, right? And I love this part, right? It's incredible, it's wonderful. But there's more. There's this brain in here and there's this brain in here, and they all work together. And so I stopped being sort of this disembodied thought process to become more of a human. And yeah, that's how I started to learn from them. And then I started to be able to connect the dots once I stopped operating from a place of fear, right? I mean, being in a herd of 1,200-pound muscle creatures, you may consider, well, that sounds a little scary, but I felt completely comfortable. And I believe I felt completely comfortable because they were completely honest. Completely honest.
Truth. Mm-hmm.
Truth. And so because of that, I felt safe. And so I was able to get a different understanding of physical connection. And my whole neurobiology changed. And then, of course, I stopped dying. Um, and so that was a new experience for me, is how to connect. And then I just started to apply what I had learned to my own species. Can we connect in this same way? Can we connect where we're not afraid of each other and we are really genuine and we are in the truth and we are being real with each other? And oh gosh, look what happens when you do that. All of a sudden, our relationships flourish. I flourish. My relationship with myself first flourished. And then that's what I could bring to every other relationship. And just like, the mirror neurons, which I didn't know at the time, but, the violin strings, when I'm flourishing and then I'm around you, and then you just automatically start to flourish, you just start to feel better. It's, those good vibes that we talk about, and they're real, 100% real. And this is how we light the world up. So this is what I wanted to bring to the world. This is what I wanted to share with the world, how simple it is and how easy it is. And so Vista Caballo is a simulator for that experience. Come be in a herd of horses. Come feel yourself. Feel again. And when you feel safe, you think different. And when you think different, what happens is different. And that's, to me, that is, when people say it's magical, like that's the magic. It's very simple. And once you feel it, once you embody it and you feel it, it doesn't go away, because all of a sudden it's like the other stuff doesn't feel really great at all. So now we want to keep it this way. And then the digital experience just came out of, oh my gosh, I love this. We want to share this with more people. How do we do that? That was our first question. How do we share this with the world? It's actually a very expensive question. but, but my husband is incredible. So we took what we had and we're like, let's figure out what actually is really happening inside of us. And we started working with some different scientists who know more about our bodies and our brains and our behaviors. And they studied the work, and then they they looked at it against a couple of really beautiful theories out there, theories of transformation and theories of, like MIT theories and, theories of presence and stuff like that. And it overlaid beautifully. So then we
Yeah.
had to figure out how to put that, on a platform that could be accessed by everybody.
Well, you've done a beautiful job.
Thank you.
Walk us through an experience. Let's say we're going to put Scott at Vista Caballo. His mouth is watering by the way.
Yeah.
So the minute that he gets off this call, he's going to be looking up how to come out and have this experience. I know that about him. So we're going to imagine Scott here. Walk us through that transformation or your process of like helping them with their transformation. It's not, you don't transform them. That experience, like what does that look like?
Well, it starts with a conversation with us, right? We have to be very clear in our intention. It's not a widget, right? You have to really understand that your life will be different. So my first question is, are you ready for that? Because we're not really sure how different. That is up to us. I mean, we can stop anything we want, right? But if you want, it will completely transform you, which means it will transform everything around you. Are you ready for that? That's usually where our conversation starts. And I haven't had anybody yet say no. There was one person who did pause. Um, and so once we're clear and we're sure, um, this is unscripted, right? It's not a cookie cutter program. We're humans, we're not cookies. And so we go through a little mini experience that we call the focal point experience. And that helps you really focus. It helps you start a conversation with yourself about why am I really coming and why am I coming now? And what do I feel maybe is missing or I am looking for? So that's really important. Um, I have my sense of what would be a good design. Of course, the herd has their say in what is really going to happen, and then the individual coming has their desire also included, and those components go together to start the creation. That being said, as soon as you get here, all of that can go right out the window. And this is why it's unscripted. Your first interaction with the land and the horses may completely change everything. So this is why we don't have a set program, because we just go with how you're transforming. And because we have, 160 acres that's dedicated just to you, we have that freedom to go with the flow, right? It's really interesting to see what herd members will show up with, what interaction they feel.
How many are in the herd?
10.
Okay.
10.
Yeah.
There's 10.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And they are free roaming,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, we may bring them into one of the smaller pastures, or you may be interacting with them within the corral of the barn, or, like I say, there's just different ways that we can step into it. But you'll come here and you'll come for a few days. You will be unplugged. And the reason that we set it up that way is because when you sleep, you integrate. When you leave here, you will be integrated. I've been to certain events where there's so much amazing information, and I leave there and I I don't know, 3 days later, I can't remember anything, but it was fabulous. We don't do that. So we want this to be integrated. So we take it at your pace. And because we've got all the land here, your pace may look like interact with the horses, go take a walk on the land, go take a nap. You're fully supported in whatever it takes for your system to integrate so that when you leave here, you are integrated with this new information so you can step forward. We always recommend maybe stay in the area for a day or two instead of going straight back home if you can. It's beautiful here. There's the canyon lands, there's the rivers there, maybe stay here for a day and get your sort of new self used to itself sort of out there in the world without being home, right smack dab back in the status quo. Give yourself a little stepping stone. We have you will go through the focal point experience again because people think that change or transformation has to take a long time. This will show you that it doesn't. And then we have a digital experience called the center experience. And we created that because no one wanted to leave the ranch. And so, which I understood completely. But I was like, no, the whole point is that you have come here to do something magnificent on the planet. Like now it's time for you to go do it. And so what this is it's 4 weeks, 28 days. Again, this is all written on the back of your neurology, right? And so, or neurobiology. And so 28 days for your system to get used to it. 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the evening. You will leave with a new reality. You will input that new reality into the program. You will work with me one-on-one. We'll meet together. And so at the end of this 28 days, you will be bringing that new reality out onto the planet. So, and then from there, you can do the still point if you want. I mean, from there we kind of go, right? Some people then want to do this with their teams or their families or so this is what I mean. It just kind of expands and grows. Some people have gone and bought their own horses and ranches and so it's however love wants to grow from that point.
That's so beautiful.
What questions are you guys? I mean, I'm like guiding this, but I really, Lisa, you have been just beautifully guiding this. So what's coming up for you guys?
I have a couple
other than Scott's mouthwater.
Yeah, but I want to lean into Scott to see if anything's coming up for him after Lisa just got done sharing that. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Yeah, I mean, I've had like 7 cups of coffee and
and he's craving a Nicorette gum.
Yeah, and all that stuff. And and I hope our listeners, hopefully, get to see you. Because you are really a beautiful person. Mm-hmm. And even the screen, it looks like a screensaver and it's not. Because like where you're sitting, it's really a beautiful environment. The bike,
it's all real, right?
The dog on the carpet and all that stuff. But and I do a lot of work in recovery, and I love the authenticity of people in recovery because they've just been beaten up so bad that they understand the beauty of being authentic. And what I hear in your voice and what I hear in your spirit and I hear in your words is that you are just like you are not afraid to be unbelievably honest in every word that you say. And I'm just blown away. There's a really beautiful book that I read called the Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. Have you read that book?
One of my favorites. One of my favorites. Yeah.
And when I read that book, I didn't understand that the boy and the mole and the fox and the horse it's part of us. It's actually us as human beings. And the horse is the deepest part of us. It's our soul.
Make me cry.
And if we're quiet enough, and I was never quiet enough because I was so afraid, and my ego was so big, and my ego was big out of fear, that I was never quiet enough to really understand who I was supposed to be or who I wanted to be. But if we're quiet enough, the horse in us comes out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then it allows us to love ourselves and all of that. So my question to you would be, if a horse could talk to us, right? Like what would a horse tell us today?
Well, first, it would probably put its big, beautiful head right over your shoulder and draw you into it and just hold you. Probably the first thing that would do. We're all in recovery. We're recovering ourselves from thinking that fear is the truth. It's not. Love is the truth, the only truth. And we don't know that. And that's why we feel afraid. You know, it's like the pasture I'm looking out at through my window. You have to outcompete the weeds, right? So a horse is going to speak to each and every one of your hearts, and it's going to tell you what you already know and what you need to hear. And it does it on such a vibration that you feel it and you know it to be the truth. And that's what helps you step forward into that truth and leave the rest behind. And, you know, for me, my horse saw me. She saw me. She didn't run away from me. She loved me. That was the thing that she communicated to me. I see you exactly who you are. And I think you are the bee's knees. And I had no idea what I was doing. And there's many funny stories about it. Well, they're funny now, but so, what would a horse say to you? You're loved. That's the only truth. You're loved. You're so loved. You're so loved. You're so perfect, exactly as you are. If you could just be you, like Karen said, if you can just be you, it will all work. If we can just have the courage and love to be ourselves, the puzzle will all fit together. We're made uniquely. No one else will have this fingerprint ever, 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 ever. It's amazing, right? I stopped coloring my hair because I wanted to see what the original design was. Like, come on.
And it's really pretty, by the way.
Thank you. Right? Come on. You're the original design. There's no one like you ever and never will be again. Think about that. Take that in, really. And of course, for us, when we're driven by fear, we can't even hear that. We can't even understand that. We can't know that. We can't know what that means. And this is why, no matter where we are in the journey, no matter where we are in the discovery, my suggestion and why we started Vista is we must learn love. And we think we know love, and we don't. We know something that we've been taught, that they were taught, that they were taught, that they were taught what love is. Love is almost indescribable. I don't, maybe it is. But when you feel it and you know it, it fills you. You are no longer afraid. I'm not saying, as a human, yes, if a mountain lion comes jumping through that window, I'm probably be a little afraid, right? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about living your life knowing you are unique. And what does that mean out on the planet? What am I supposed to do with this uniqueness? Right? And a lot of us are told, you go and you get a job and you earn money and you buy things and, take care of your family. And okay, of course. I mean, we're humans, right? We have needs, physical needs. But what are we really supposed to be doing here? We're really supposed to be having conversations like this and helping each other and saying everybody's in recovery. What are we recovering from? We're recovering from believing that the fear was the truth.
Wendy, I'm curious too. Interesting, Lisa. If the view of that view, I can't even imagine what the view from your window looks like. But Wendy, I'm curious around what are some questions that you want to ask Lisa?
We can't hear you all of a sudden.
Now it's because I was too far away from my mic. I'm sorry. So yeah, now I wish we had another hour, right? I think we're gonna have to bring Lisa back on for sure. But I have some comments, and then I could make questions out of those, but I'm just gonna make some comments, and then I have one question for you as we're wrapping up. Maybe a couple questions. But first of all, I feel and see love from you. And thank you for that. Okay, let me pull it together. So, this podcast, wow, I am being hit by a wave. Woo, doggy. Okay, someone make me laugh. Okay, I got it. This podcast, right, is called Culture is an Inside Job. And the reason we call it that is because while all of us, Scott, Karen, and I love and care so much about leaders and leadership and culture within organizations, and we all have our own stories and our own, reasons why. But this is just so beautiful, and I just hope people are making that deep connection around this and all that you are sharing, because that's what this is all about. Is that we call it Culture's an Inside Job because we can't affect culture within our families, within our organizations, within our friendships, within our communities, until we've done that within ourselves. And that's what I hear you saying, right? And while you, Lisa, came to this place because of a terminal illness, right? And the what I wrote down was, everything was there and nothing mattered. And that's what took you to that relationship with yourself. And as you just mentioned, this is so beautiful, right? When you said, what do I do with this uniqueness? And so for you, it took that terminal illness. And so I can only imagine we could have a whole episode on this, right? Gosh, how can we help people recognize that before they get to that point?
Right.
Which is why you're doing the work that you're doing.
That's right.
And so I just hope, people see that in the two words, willingness and courage.
Yeah.
Right. And I think, again, a couple of things I want to ask you, but first is, what legacy do you hope to leave behind in terms of cultural impact and leadership? right? When you think of cultural impact and leadership, what legacy do you hope to leave behind?
Well, as a servant of love, I hope to leave behind a legacy. No, I don't hope to do anything. I would love to be part of the movement of love that where every human being on this planet knows that love is the truth and the only way. However, I can be part of that. That would be wonderful if, in my last breath, if I am looking into the eyes of love and know that many, many others now are filled with love and will continue that, filling others with love. That would be good.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. Thank you. Karen, do you have something?
Yeah, there's, we haven't, I'm so grateful for your ability to just take us on this journey. And yes, there's so many things that we can do in another hour. The one thing I feel like may be useful at some point, perhaps in another episode, would be to talk more about really who do you work with? I know that we've talked about this before, and so that our audience gets an idea of who is it that really you have transformed, because it's these people listening right now. It's the leader, it's some of these top leaders all across that have come and shared this transformation in your space.
Yeah, we work with those people. We work with the visionary leaders, the ones who know that there's something more, the ones who are, we're doing it, right? We're doing what we're supposed to, and this is how business works and the thing, and our bottom line, our profit margins, and, we make incremental changes. I love working with impact leaders and their companies because, they're using their work and their life for the betterment of all. And I want to amplify that. I want to accelerate that because then we all benefit from it. And if you're one of them, because you're going to feel this inside yourself, it's like, and you also know that we've got to do it better. We've got to do it on a different level. We've got to do it in an outrageous way that hasn't been done before. Like, that's what we're talking about, right? So, that's who I like to work with. I think we need to maybe talk about, culture as an inside job, horse experiences and still point experiences. And I think we need to get bold and outrageous. I think we need to say what would be the most audacious thing that we could do as a leader or as a company, and let's go do that, like, now. And let's do it without blowing up our ship, right? Why not? We can do both.
Yeah. Let's
Absolutely.
do it.
Let's do it.
Hopefully everybody's fired up.
The
like
audacity.
I am. I'm like, let's do this. Okay, so Lisa, as we wrap up here, how can our listeners contact you and follow your work at Vista Caballo?
The easiest thing is just to shoot me an email, lisa@vistacaballo.com. That's the easiest way to reach me. You can, if you want to see behind the scenes at Vista Caballo, if you want to get to know the herd a little bit, you can go to our Instagram. That's sort of our behind the scenes conversation. And you can get on it. You can go to our website. You can get onto our newsletter list. I put something out every now and again. You can get on my LinkedIn if you want. I write articles on Medium every now and again. My focus is so much now on the leaders and their companies. The next stage will probably be to create more content so people can access more of this. I just want to be very intentional about what that content is, because the last thing we need is more noise out there.
Right.
So
That makes sense. And for our listeners, if you all have any questions for Lisa, because I have a feeling we will be bringing her back, you can email us to at cultureisaninsidejob@gmail.com, and we'd be happy to keep track of some of those questions, and we can ask Lisa when she comes back on with us. And then finally, Lisa, one thing we typically do with our listeners is, or we just say, we ask them a question around, okay, let's go inside. So if there was one thing you could ask the listeners to sit with, or to, whatever, let's just use that phrase, to sit with, what might it be?
I think what I would ask is for them to sit with is really get clear on, what are you afraid of? Or why? And if you were leading with love instead of fear, look at that question again.
Amazing. Thank you. Karen, Scott, anything else from you?
You have probably, I'm not sure I've ever been this quiet in an hour in my entire life.
No.
And I am blown away. And I am just, this planet is in a beautiful place because of you. So thank you for being with us. And I'm a better person because I know you. So I'm blessed, grateful.
What he said.
Thank you so much. Thanks for being here, Lisa, and bless you and all of your work. And to our listeners, we'll see you next time.
Thank you all so much.